Hey, hey, hey. I might be live. I'm gonna just see if I can see me. Okay, I can see me. I know I'm here early. I'm here early on a Tuesday, but my schedule since my daughter started preschool has been changing. So I don't know exactly when the new official time is. I know it'll stay on Tuesdays, but I don't know. I'm playing around with some different times to figure out what time of the day may be best for me with my new schedule. So bear with me, guys, as I figure out what the new time for the lives will be. So that way, if you guys want to be here and plan to be here each week with me and spend some time with me, you guys will know, and I'm not just like going live out of the blue crazy time. So I know I'm doing that right now, going live so early, but this may be the new time. It may not be. I don't know just yet. I will make an announcement when I know the official time. But with all of that being said, I don't know who's going to be able to join me right now or not, but I'm going to go ahead and get started. So today we are talking about how to be able to express and honor our needs with confidence without creating conflict. So what that kind of means is like being able to know how we feel and trust that we know what we need, right? And being able to express that with confidence, but without creating conflict, right? So like sometimes we need to say no, or sometimes we need to get out of a situation that we are not happy in or that we don't want to be in. And we need to be able to know that and to be able to feel that within us and then to express it and honor it, right? And set those boundaries and actually stick with them, but without creating a bunch of conflict in the relationship, right? So without creating a fight or without creating something to go wrong just because you need to say no or you're not able to be there, right? So I'm going to tell you a little bit of a story about one of the first times I realized I had really shitty boundaries. I did not have a way to express myself, or like it's like I felt stuck. So my healing journey actually did not begin right after my divorce. So after my divorce was like those are one of the bigger moments that I talk about in my healing journey because it was the basically the start. But right after the separation, there was a small little period, like maybe a month, where I was still screwing around and I was like not ready to take responsibility for my healing. So right after my separation, I was in the heart of like codependency. I was a new mom, so I was extremely afraid of being alone and being a single mom. So literally I did it one last time, just to really hit me in the heart, to really mess me up, to do something to awaken me to take my healing seriously. This little blip of an incident, but it really helped me recognize I had no ability to set boundaries or to express my needs. And that was a really big problem that I needed to solve. So I had gotten into a relationship right after my separation. And what happened is I did not actually align to this person. I was only with them because I didn't want to be a single mom. I didn't want to be alone. I felt like I needed their support. I needed their companionship. I needed help. And so I was doing things sexually that I didn't want to do. I was spending my time in ways that I didn't want to spend my time. And I was shutting down. Like my body was starting to shut down. I was not with this person for very long, thankfully. But that time, I was like going to spend time with people, doing things that I didn't want to do, getting babysitters to go party, doing things that I was not aligned with, like things that I wasn't doing in my marriage, things that I didn't want to do, period, because I just didn't want to be alone. I was afraid. So I was doing all of these things. And what was happening is I was feeling that way. But instead of me like saying, hey, like, I don't want to do this. I don't want to spend time doing these things. This isn't really like, this doesn't align to me. This doesn't align to like how I want to live my life or where I want my future to go. Instead of saying that, because I was so afraid, like, hey, if I say, hey, I don't like what you do, they'll be like, okay, well, then we shouldn't be together. I'm going to leave. Right. I didn't feel like they cared enough about me, which they really didn't, right? Like I was not supposed to be in this relationship. I felt like they didn't care enough about me and what I needed to make compromise to meet me in the middle so that we could both be happy, right? We were both completely just two different people, and I just didn't want to be alone. So I was like, oh, I'll do whatever you want to do so that you'll stay with me and I don't have to be alone, right? So that's kind of how that went. And what happened is I started to shut. I felt like I literally could not speak. I don't know if you guys may relate to this or have been in a situation that you just did not want to be in and you could not physically speak. So it felt like there was a lump in my throat. And this stress actually led to me having a cyst on my ovary because I was so stressed out and I was doing things sexually that I didn't want to do. I was doing things like spending my time doing things that I didn't want to do. So my body was literally starting to shut down from this. And this long after, I tell the story about how stress almost killed me. So this kind of led up to that. So it's like before that, I was in this relationship where I was not expressing myself clearly or honoring myself at all because I was afraid of like creating conflict. We were going to get in a fight and break up, right? And I was like, oh, I can't have that happen. So I've got to conform to their needs, right? So first, it was like I couldn't speak. I couldn't tell so I was really depressed because I just could not talk. And I was just like, very quiet all the time. And I was just like, yeah, whatever you want. Yeah, whatever you want. And like, nobody really like questioned it. Because they didn't really care, right? They were just like, oh, I get what I want. And that's great. So I was really quiet. I was really depressed. And then I started to have that ovarian cyst. And then the next thing was like my heart. There was so much tension and pressure on my heart that my heart started like palpitating and I couldn't breathe. Like my breathing was very shallow and just literally all of this almost killed me. So thankfully, after that situation, my true healing journey began and I learned some tools that I'm going to actually share with you guys today. But I wanted to share like a real life example of like what it feels like to not be able to honor or express your own needs, right? So in order to be able to do that, there was 3 things that really changed the game for me in my journey so that I wouldn't end up in that situation again. So the first thing that I had to do was in order for me to be able to set boundaries easily that I could express, I needed to be clear about like, what are my boundaries? What are boundaries, right? I needed to know like, what is a boundary and how do I set it? So generally speaking, boundaries can go deeper and we'll talk a little bit about those deeper boundaries. But for the most part, you just really need to know like, what are your top priorities? What are your goals? What are how do you want to live your life? How do you want to experience life? You need to know those top priorities and those top goals. And then what I do is when you know those top priorities and those top goals, what you can do is you can create what I call subcategory priorities. Okay, so now the subcategory priorities, let's say you have 3 goals, or let's say you have 3 things in your life that are like so important to you. So this might be your own relationship to yourself. This might be your relationship to your children or your lovers, and this might be your job, right? So you might have 3 things that are extremely important to you or 3 goals that you're working towards, right? Maybe you don't have kids or a job yet, so you might have more goals than necessarily priority areas, if that makes sense. So you know your top 3, top 5 goals and priorities. Now, what are the things? Now, the subcategory priorities are the actions that you may need to take to prioritize those goals, right? So the actions that you might need to take are like, how do you want to spend time with yourself? Like that might be your self-care list, or it might be the parts of yourself that you want to prioritize. So this might be your physical health. This might be your spiritual connection. This might be the things that are important to you as a person, right? And you might figure those things out in your subcategory priorities. Those are the things that those are the actions that you're going to take, or those are the places, the areas where you're going to spend time to make that priority, that main priority, a priority, right? So if one of your priorities or one of your goals is to spend more time with your kids, what are the subcategory priorities to that, right? So it's like, oh, well, I want to do more playtime with them at this time, or I want to do more education with them, or I want to do more hygiene with them, or I want to cook more with them or clean more with them, right? So those are the subcategory priorities. So now now you are expanding like what your goals and your priorities are. So it's like, oh my gosh, I have all these things that I need to do. And then the second thing is bringing awareness to how are you currently spending your time, right? Like, are you doing those things? Are you cooking with your kid? Are you doing your self-care list? Are you spending time with your mother or your sister, right? If your other relationships are important to you. Are you doing things to enhance your career, right? Like, are you doing those actions Are you doing the subcategory priorities throughout your day, or are you doing something else, right? Are you honoring your own boundaries, right? And this is going to help us in the second one, right? So, or in the third one. The only way you're going to be able to have boundaries that are honored is if you are honoring needs first, right? So having like a schedule saying, hey, at this time, it's me time. I'm going to prioritize myself. So the first thing in the morning, I've got an hour or 2 hours or 30 minutes or whatever it is for you that I'm going to do something for me, right? And then in the afternoon, I'm going to prioritize my career. And then in the evening, I'm going to prioritize my child, right? So having a schedule that paints the picture of you prioritizing your needs, right? So this does a couple of things. Number one, this will show you, are you honoring your own boundaries, right? So for example, if something that's important to you is having a meal plan, a healthy meal plan that you follow, and something that you don't see as healthy might be McDonald's or Taco Bell. And so you have a meal plan that you say you want to follow, that you say is important to you, but then you are actually spending your time going to McDonald's or Taco Bell, and you're not following the meal plan. That's an example of you not honoring your own boundaries, if that makes sense. So if you're not, so these first two are going to help you see how well are you honoring your own boundaries, because if you're not honoring your own boundaries, then essentially how can you really expect yourself to set boundaries with other, or for them to honor your boundaries, right? If you're not even respecting your own boundaries or honoring your own boundaries, or if you don't even know what your boundaries are, right, it can escalate really quickly to where you feel like you're being taken advantage of, or you're in a situation you don't want to be in and you don't know how to get out of it, right? So being very clear on how you want to spend your time and being very honest. Are you spending time the way that you say you want to be spending time, or are you doing something else, right? And then just practicing. Now that's where like discipline and consistency and overcoming self-sabotage comes in. So, you know, I talk about self-sabotage in other videos, but today we're talking about boundaries, but it always goes a little bit deeper. You know, there's always one little more steps that you can take to make it easier to make sure you're setting those boundaries. But I'm giving you what I can today in today's video. So those are the first two, is know what your boundaries are so that you can express them. And then number two, having a schedule that aligns, a soul-aligned schedule that aligns to how you want to be spending your time, so that you can be aware, are you honoring your own boundaries so that other people can honor yours. So now the final one is communication, right? So when you need to set a boundary, right? So like, let's say you have your schedule, and let's say people are asking, so let's say you figure out, hey, I want to spend more time on my career, or hey, I want to spend more time in this area, but you realize there's a conflict, right? There's a conflict with a current responsibility that you have, and you need to get out of it, right? So something that I teach my clients is communication. So being able to communicate in a way that is where you are understanding that everyone involved has feelings, right? So communicating with everyone's needs in mind and everyone's feelings in mind, right? So especially if it's a responsibility that you are already in, that you need to get out of in order to honor yourself, right? Which is the most common. So in order to do that without creating conflict, you need to be confident in, hey, like, why are you getting out of this? Or why do you want to end this current responsibility, right? So like, there needs to be confidence, and what's going to create that confidence is in step one, step two, right? Figuring out what are your priorities, and then figuring out how you want to be spending your time and managing your time to honor those priorities, right? So now you've got a confident reason. It's not just like, hey, I don't want to do this, so I'm not going to do it anymore. And I know that a lot of people, I think, like, that's the misconception. I think the misconception is, oh, if I don't want to do something, I should be able to do that. And yes, meanwhile, like, fine, yeah, if you want to, if that's how you want to be, great. But I know for me, as someone who, it's my passion making other people happy. Like, I'm a caretaker. I love taking care of other people. I love when other people are happy. So that doesn't really align for me, and that's okay. It's actually okay if you don't want to set boundaries just because, right? Like, yes, that in a dream world, whatever, that might be cool. But if I can help somebody, I want to know that I can just help them, right? So like, for me, I think it's okay to keep everybody's feelings in mind when I'm saying no, or I'm relieving myself of a responsibility, and also not necessarily taking responsibility to fix their problem, but offering support while they fix their problem if they want it, right? Because they may be annoyed that I'm saying no. They may be annoyed that I'm walking away, but that's okay. So I want to do this with love, right? Like I want to set these boundaries with love. So some people want to be able to set boundaries and just not give a shit about what other people think, but that's not me, right? Like I care about what people think, and I care about how they feel, and I care about them being taken care of because it's a passion of mine to help others. So I want to set my boundaries in a way that feels like I'm working with this person, right? Because let's say it's a job, right? I have an example. I have a client who needed to set a boundary because she needed to quit the job, right? She wanted to spend more time. She wanted to spend more time opening her own business. And in order for her to do that, she needed to let this job go. Another thing is she wanted to spend more time healing her stress response. And that job was creating a lot of stress in her life. So for two important reasons, one, she was honoring herself because one of her priorities is herself and her health. And then another priority is her career path, right? So this job that she currently had was conflicting with her career path. So in order for us to get her to align to her own boundaries, we had to eliminate this job. But guess what? This job was her friend gave her this job, right? Her friend is the owner, her friend was the boss, and her friend really took care of her. But, so my client doesn't want to go to her boss and say, hey, this job isn't working out for me. I'm not happy here anymore. I need to leave, right? It wasn't one of those situations, even though that was partially true. That's not how she wanted to go at this, right? She had love and admiration and appreciation for her boss. And so she wanted to do this in a way that felt soul aligned, right? And like, that's how I am, right? Like, just because I'm not happy in a situation anymore doesn't mean that I don't appreciate what put me in the situation to begin with, right? And I don't want to leave on bad terms, right? And I feel like my soul people, my soul tribe can resonate with that. They understand it's not about like saying, I'm just so confident in myself, I'm going to set this boundary and leave you hanging, right? Like, I don't want to be like that. And I don't think none of my clients want to be like that. So maybe if you guys are watching this, a lot of you can understand that, like, hey, we don't have to be cutthroat in order to set boundaries and to feel like we are successful, right? Like, just because you want to set boundaries with love doesn't mean that you're, questioning your self-worth or not living up to your self-worth. I personally believe that increases my self-worth because now I'm setting boundaries and communicating with love and care and appreciation instead of just being like careless or selfish, right? Like, I don't want to align to those feelings, so I don't. So we created, we figured out like what is a teamwork statement, right? So it's like you have to start practicing communication in the fact of, okay, so this is what I need, but how is that going to affect them? Right? And actually genuinely caring and saying, hey, this is what I need and this is why, right? Like, hey, I'm focusing on these things now, so I need this time back. Is there anything I can do to help you make this adjustment better? Right? So it's not always going to be like that, right? Everybody's situation is going to be a little bit different and a little bit more unique, but that's an example of setting a boundary when something is draining you, something's not making you happy anymore, but you don't want to do it by creating a bunch of conflict, but you want to do it with confidence, right? So having the reason as to why this is no longer aligning to you, like being aware as to why something is no longer aligning to you, being able to articulate that, and then also being willing to say, hey, this is another human being that I'm kind of, now they have to find a new solution for whatever responsibility I was taking for them, right? So I want to honor them because I appreciate them by looking for a new solution for them if they want it, right? They may be so pissed off or annoyed at you that they don't want it, but that's not your problem, right? Like, that's no longer your problem. That's no longer in your hands. And for me, I know the more I practice this, the more I'm like, well, hey, I did my best. I said this with love. And now I'll tell you, my client was able to quit her job and there was no conflict. So I'm not going to promise that you'll never have conflict, but for the most part, when you go at it from appreciation and teamwork to set that boundary, you can, and confidence, right? That first piece of just knowing, why are you setting this boundary to begin with? Why does the thing not align to you anymore? And what does? And being able to present that and then use appreciation and teamwork to set the boundary, it doesn't end in conflict, right? Like, she's still friends with that person. They're still on good standing. They still work together, and they still maintain a relationship after not working together anymore, right? So that's an example of using communication. So now, what is the challenge that you guys might see here, right? So for me, if you got me back before my healing journey began, so where some of you may be in that challenge of, hey, if I set a boundary, it has to be this way, and I have to not care in order for me to be successful or to decide that my self-worth was worthy, right? And I hope that I explain, like, hey, that's not how it has to be. You can set boundaries with love and still be successful in your self-worth, right? But if your challenge goes a little bit further back, right? Like if you would have got me when I was in that relationship in between my healing journey starting, I felt very unsure of what I really wanted and how to communicate. Like communicating seemed impossible. So the solution that I started with, what helped me, was I actually pulled out my book of chakra healing. So I started working on my heart and my throat. Now, so I don't know if you're familiar with chakras, but if you can look them up, there's so much free information. I do a lot of trainings on chakras. So if you have questions on chakras, I'm happy to answer them. But in general, for this particular purpose of being able to know what your needs are, to know what your feelings are, and to be able to express them, you need to work on the heart and the throat chakra together, because the heart will govern how you feel, your deepest desires, your deepest wants, your deepest feelings, right? You need to have an open heart so that you know how you feel. What do you want? You can figure out what is important to you. How do you want to spend your time, and journal about that, right? And do step 1 and step 2 through the heart chakra. And then opening the throat chakra will help you do step 3 so that you can communicate through your heart center, right? So that you can communicate with love, so that you can, with confidence and appreciation and teamwork, set the boundary that you need to set the boundary for, if that makes sense. So I hope that you guys enjoyed today's training. I know that, like I said, the times are crazy, but I hope that you guys enjoyed today's training. And if you guys have any questions, or I'd love to hear your feedback. So if you guys, want to tell me, was this helpful, or did you get anything from it? What did you enjoy about it? I'd love to hear it. If you guys have any questions about whether it's the chakras tools that I gave, I'd love to answer any of those questions in the comments. So just leave your comments below. And if you missed the beginning of today's training, the replay will be available as soon as I end, so you guys can go back and watch the replay. So today we talked about honoring ourselves, setting better boundaries, and being able to do that with confidence without creating conflict, right? Because, if you're here, likely you're like me and you don't want to create a bunch of conflict, because if you're like me, you thrive on helping people, right? Like you love when other people are happy, especially if it's from something you're doing. But that can come with some consequences of not being able to set good boundaries, or being taken advantage of, or feeling really drained afterwards, because we're not doing it in a soul-aligned way or with confidence, or we're only doing something because we're afraid, like, we don't want to disappoint them, right? So it's a great thing, but if we're not in control of it, it can become in control of us. So I hope these tools help you as much as they've helped me. And if you guys need anything, thank you guys for spending some time with me. If you guys need anything, any questions, let me know in the comments, and I'm sending love to all of you. And I'm so happy that you guys are here, and I'll see you guys again next week with all of that being said. So I hope you guys have a wonderful rest of your week. And if you need me for anything, just let me know.